Let's get started. Number 10. The Triple Threat of Ise Bay, Japan, 1586. January 18, 1586. Central Japan. The day begins like any other. But deep beneath the surface, an ancient power is stirring. This isn't just an earthquake. The ground doesn't shake, it roars. The Tensho quake, a colossal inland tremor estimated at a staggering magnitude 8.2, rips through the earth. It is a force of pure, geological fury. Castle walls, proud symbols of unshakable power, are turned to dust in seconds. On the mountainsides, the very definition of solid ground vanishes. Millions of tons of rock and earth give way, thundering down into the valleys in catastrophic landslides. In coastal towns like Nagahama, the nightmare is just beginning. The violent shaking topples braziers and lanterns, giving birth to a citywide inferno that greedily consumes the wooden houses. But the Earth's violence was just the opening act. The quake unleashed a double-barreled aquatic assault. Out in the saltwater of Ise Bay, the displaced seafloor generates a tsunami. A 20-foot wall of solid ocean, 6 meters high, gathers speed and slams into the coastline. It moves with the force of a battering ram the size of a mountain, claiming the vast majority of the more than 8,000 lives lost that day. But at the exact same time, something even stranger is happening. In Japan's largest freshwater lake, Lake Biwa, the seismic violence creates a seisei, a lake tsunami. Imagine a giant, oscillating wave, a phenomenon so rare it's almost mythical, surging over the fire-gutted ruins of Nagahama. It's a wave of fresh water washing away the ashes and the dead. The Tensho event was a brutal, cascading failure of reality itself, proving that a killer wave doesn't always need an ocean. Number 9. The buried city of Catania, Sicily, 1169. February 4, 1169, Sicily. Inside the Grand Cathedral of Catania, 44 monks are led in prayer by their bishop. It is a moment of supposed sanctuary, a holy feast. But in that moment, the earth betrays them. A catastrophic earthquake strikes. The stone ceiling of God's own house groans once, a final, terrible sound, then shatters, becoming an instant tomb for the bishop and every single monk below. This was just the heart of the city's annihilation. The chronicler, Hugo Falcandus, wrote that the quake's power was so immense, it was felt all the way on mainland Italy. It triggered bizarre, terrifying omens. In distant Syracuse, the famous Arethusa spring suddenly turned salty. Another, chillingly, was said to run blood red. And then came the sea. As the dust of the collapsed city was still settling, a tsunami swept over the ruins, not just of Catania, but of towns all along the Ionian coast. Between 15,000 and 25,000 people were simply erased. The devastation was so total, it led to a startling choice. The survivors didn't just rebuild, they buried their dead city and built a new one directly on its bones, forever raising the ground level of Catania. It remains there today, a silent, layered testament to the day the sea came for Sicily. Number 8. The Ghost Wave of Kamakura, 1293. This is one of history's great geological cold cases. The date, May 20th, 1293. The place, Kamakura, Japan's military capital. Historical records, like the Kamakura Nendaiki, are clear. A massive earthquake struck, followed by a calamitous tsunami that killed over 23,000 people. The wave was powerful enough to badly damage the huge wooden temple hall built to protect the iconic Great Buddha. But here's the mystery. Despite the staggering death toll in the chronicles, modern geologists can find no definitive trace of the wave. Extensive surveys have failed to uncover the distinct, massive sand layer a tsunami of this scale should have left behind. So what happened? Was the death toll a clerical error, inflated by famine or plague? Was the wave a hyper-localized event, maybe caused by a submarine landslide that left no widespread signature? It remains a ghost wave in the geological record. This disaster struck a capital already exhausted from repelling 2 Mongol invasions. The phantom wave was a devastating blow, a warning shot from the planet itself. But for the Great Buddha, a far greater test was yet to come. Number 7. The Wave That Freed the Buddha, Nankai, 1498. September 20th, 1498. Just over a century after the first wave, the rebuilt temple hall housing the Great Buddha would face its final judgment. Deep in the Nankai Trough, the Earth's crust ruptures. A colossal megathrust earthquake, with a magnitude estimated as high as 8.6, unleashes a tsunami of almost unimaginable power. The waves that strike the coast are immense, unstoppable. They don't just damage the temple hall, they obliterate it. They scour it from the very earth, leaving the 13-meter-tall, 121-ton bronze statue completely exposed to the open sky for the first time in its existence. It has sat in the open air ever since, for over 500 years. But this tsunami was more than a destroyer, it was a geological artist. Miles away, it permanently breached a sandspit separating the freshwater Lake Hamana from the Pacific Ocean, transforming it into the brackish lagoon it remains to this day. With a death toll estimated between 31,000 and 41,000, the Mayo tsunami was a stark reminder that these waves don't just take lives, they rewrite the very map of the world. Number 6. The volcano's fury. Krakatoa, Indonesia, 1883. August 27, 1883. This tsunami wasn't born from an earthquake. It was born from a cataclysm. The Indonesian volcanic island of Krakatoa did not just erupt, it annihilated itself in a display of geological fury, so extreme it defies the imagination. The final explosions were not a sound, they were a physical concussion. A pressure wave so powerful it was recorded on instruments worldwide after circling the entire planet multiple times. The noise itself was heard as distant cannon fire over 4,600 kilometers away. This wave wasn't born from a shifting tectonic plate. It was born from a void. As the northern two-thirds of the island collapsed into its own empty heart, it pulled the ocean down with it. The sea then rebounded as a monolithic wall of water up to 41 meters, 135 feet high. Imagine a wave as tall as a 13-story building moving at hundreds of miles per hour. It erased 165 coastal villages from existence. Over 36,000 people died. It was the quintessential volcanogenic tsunami, a terrifying demonstration that the threat doesn't just come from below the seafloor, but from the explosive fury of the earth itself. Number 5. The Day of Horror, Crete, 365 AD. July 21, 365 AD. Near Crete, the Hellenic Trench rips apart. A magnitude 8.5 or greater earthquake. The Roman historian Ammianus Marcellinus gives us a chilling, almost modern account of what happened next. He describes the absolute terror as the sea was sucked away, exposing the seabed, revealing a writhing landscape of struggling marine life and stranded ships. People, curious or looking to scavenge, rushed out onto the new, wet land. They had no idea they were running into a trap. They were met by what Marcellinus called a returning, quote, boiling mass of water. The great city of Alexandria was hit with unimaginable force. The waves surmounted all defenses, famously hurling large ships nearly 2 miles inland. Just try to imagine the panic in the world's greatest port city, watching a trireme sail over your rooftop. The Day of Horror, as it was forever known, killed 5,000 in Alexandria and possibly 45,000 more in the surrounding countryside, leaving a psychic scar so deep that its anniversary was commemorated for centuries. Number 4. The Enlightenment's Catalyst. Lisbon, 1755. November 1st, 1755. It is the Feast of All Saints, one of the most important holy days of the year. The great churches of Lisbon, masterpieces of gilded wood and stone, are filled to capacity with the faithful. And at the moment of peak devotion, the ground gives way. For 6 terrifying minutes, a quake of up to magnitude 9.0 turns the city to dust, toppling churches directly onto their congregations. Survivors stagger from the dust-choked ruins into the open air of the harbor, gasping for breath, thinking, praying, that the worst is over. It was a fatal miscalculation. 40 minutes later, the sea returns. 3 enormous waves surge up the river, swallowing the harbor and the thousands who had sought refuge there. And this wasn't just a local event. This was a tsunami. Its power was so immense that waves were recorded in the Caribbean. Remarkably, a nearly 3-meter wave struck the coast of Cornwall in the UK. This wasn't just a disaster, it was an intellectual crisis. How could a benevolent God allow a pious city to be erased on a holy day? For thinkers like Voltaire and Kant, the rubble of Lisbon became the very foundation for a new, secular age of reason. The tsunami didn't just wash away a city, it washed away an entire way of thinking.
Number 3. The Shadow of the Quake, Jordan Valley, 1033. This event is a ghost in the pages of history. It's a terrifying lesson in how even the greatest catastrophes can hide their secrets. On December 5, 1033, a seismic rupture tore the Jordan Valley apart. It was a cataclysm so vast, with a death toll so staggering, an estimated 70,000 people, that it almost completely overshadowed its deadly accomplice. Buried deep within the historical accounts of this immense tragedy is a secondary killer. The tsunami it triggered in the Sea of Galilee and the Dead Sea is a mere footnote, a moderate wave responsible for several of these thousands of deaths. But how many is several, when 70,000 are already dead? Its true toll is lost, absorbed into the greater horror of the quake. It is a shadow killer, whose work is forever obscured by the earthquake that spawned it. It's a chilling reminder that what is recorded is not always the full story of the dead. Number 2. The Double Disaster, Messina, Italy, 1908. In the pre-dawn darkness of December 28, 1908, as the Italian cities of Messina and Reggio Calabria slept, the world ended. For 30 agonizing seconds, the earth became a violent fluid. A magnitude 7.1 earthquake caused the near-total collapse of both cities. Over 91% of the structures in Messina were simply gone. Erased. But this was a perfectly engineered natural trap. The quake drove the few survivors from the rubble of their homes towards what they believed was the safety of the open waterfront. And there, waiting for them in the suffocating dark, was the sea. Minutes after the shaking stopped, the sea returned. It came back as a 12-meter 40-foot wall of black water. It didn't just flood the coastline, it completed the slaughter. The combined effect was apocalyptic. With a final death toll estimated between 80,000 and 123,000 people, it remains the deadliest seismic event in European history. A harrowing, final lesson in the 1-2 punch of quake and wave. Number 1. The Mega Tsunami, Indian Ocean, 2004. It begins with the mundane, perfect day. Tourists filming their children playing on a beach in Thailand. Fishermen preparing their boats in Aceh, Indonesia. No one knows that hundreds of miles away, beneath the placid surface of the Indian Ocean, the third largest earthquake ever recorded, has just torn a 1,600-kilometer wound in the seafloor, displacing 30 cubic kilometers of water. This was not a failure of science. The seismic wave was detected almost instantly. It was a failure of imagination, a failure of infrastructure. An entire ocean basin, home to millions of people, had no system in place to warn them that death was traveling towards them at the speed of a jetliner. The wave hit the coast of Aceh, Indonesia, not as a swell, but as a roaring, debris-filled monster over 100 feet high, scouring the earth clean for miles inland. It didn't stop. It radiated across the entire ocean, traveling 3,000 kilometers to Africa, and still arriving with enough power to kill. The final death toll is approximately 230,000 people, across 14 countries. It was a tragedy on a scale that defies comprehension. A brutal catalyst that forced the creation of the modern warning systems we have today, and a permanent, deep scar on the memory of the 21st century, proving that even now, in our modern world, we can still be caught utterly unprepared for the true fury of the sea.